Hey, Cool Gray. Welcome to another episode of Our Kitchen to Yours. Today, I am making banana bread. I make them in little mini loaves. I've got these really adorable little mini ceramic loaf pans. I give these to family members because I know they will come back to me and I can make them again. But there are paper versions of these available, usually in your grocery store, sometimes in the baking section of a craft store. So this makes really wonderful little mini loaves. Of course, when it's not holiday time, you can use this recipe to make banana bread full size or even bigger. Let's not get crazy. Everybody probably has a banana bread recipe. This is the one I've used for the last couple of years because I found it to be consistently delicious. It's got a couple of interesting steps that maybe you haven't seen before. It comes from this cookbook, one of my favorite. It's Cook's Illustrated. It's a nice big fat cookbook and my recipe is right here. And this one is called Ultimate Banana Bread. So I'm going to walk you through this recipe. Let's talk about our ingredients for a minute. Come on, let's go. When making banana bread, of course, the first thing you need to talk about are the bananas. You'll notice that these really aren't looking so pretty, but we really do need to let our bananas get super duper ripe, heavily speckled, and even close to black. Now, when these got to exactly the right stage, I put them in my refrigerator overnight because I wasn't ready to make the recipe just yet. So the skin may look a little bit darker than it would if I had not done that. And back here I have one that is slightly less ripe because I'm going to use that to decorate later. Here are my mini loaf pans. This is a single batch recipe and I'm hoping to get 4 mini loaves out of this. We'll see what we do when we get the batter prepared. I've got some butter that I'm going to melt and cool. This is a full stick of butter, 2 eggs. I've got 3/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar. I have sometimes used dark brown sugar for this and found that it works great. And here I've got, this is often hard to see in the light, I've got a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. And I've got 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I've also made this with white whole wheat flour, which I highly recommend. It doesn't really change the consistency or the flavor much, but it's a little bit healthier. This is not called for in the recipe, but I have some turbinado sugar. I'm also going to use that on top. I think the recipe says you can use regular sugar to sprinkle on the top of the loaf, but I really like the texture of the raw sugar. What we're going to do with these bananas is microwave them for a few minutes because that's going to produce some juice that we are then going to reduce down to increase that banana flavor. So I'm going to need a saucepan in order to do that. And this is the bowl that I will be microwaving my bananas in. And then that, of course, is my beautiful vintage footed bowl. That is my husband's grandmother's bowl that we love to keep around here. That's what you'll need for equipment. So let's actually begin doing what we need to do with those bananas. So first I'm going to prep my pans. I'm just going to give them a light spray with some butter flavored cooking spray. Set those aside until the batter is ready to pour into them. And then I'm going to prepare my bananas. Just take the peels off of them. I tend to break them in half. There's nothing in the recipe that says you need to do that. What we're going to do here, once we get all of our bananas in the bowl, is to microwave them. And what that'll do is release a lot of juice out of the bananas, something very surprising about this recipe. Then we're going to strain that juice out and reduce it down over some heat. That's what the little red saucepan is for. And add that back into our recipe to help increase the banana flavor. That's typically what people complain about when they have a banana bread, is that it doesn't have enough banana flavor. So I'm just going to pop some wax paper over the top of that to keep the steam in, put it in my microwave on high for 5 minutes, and then we'll have our juice. Once the juice has been separated out, I'm going to strain it into a little bowl there. Might give it a little bit of help with a spoon. I'm going to take that pulp and put it back into my recipe, but I want to get all of that loose juice out of there. The more of that I have to reduce down, the more flavor I'm going to end up putting back into my recipe. And then with the one banana that was a little bit less ripe, I'm going to take that and chop it up. I'm going to use that to decorate the top of the loaves once the batter's been put in the pan. And of course I'm going to do that triple time because it's so much more fun. Set those aside until I'm ready for them. Now my pulp goes back into my bowl and the juice is going to go into this saucepan. I'm going to cook it so that I get a light boil. I don't want to go completely crazy with that, but I do want to get a good simmer going. I want to see some bubbles in there. And as you watch, you'll see the water is going to evaporate out and we're going to be left with a much, much thicker, cloudier looking banana juice. And I'm just going to pour that right back into my pulp. And there is where all of our banana flavor is going to come from. So I'm going to mash that together with my favorite potato masher. You'll see that in some other upcoming recipes. It's a wonderful, handy dandy little tool. And I don't have to go crazy with this, just get it a little incorporated. It can still be somewhat lumpy, but we want a fairly good puree kind of feel. Doesn't need to be super smooth. I've already combined all of my dry ingredients in my beautiful vintage footed bowl and whisked those together. Now I'm adding my pulp and the rest of my wet ingredients. So I've got my melted butter and my beaten eggs. I'm adding my vanilla extract, which I did neglect to mention to you when we went through the ingredients earlier, but we do need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract in our recipe. And now I've got my brown sugar going in. We're just going to go ahead and whisk all of that together until it's beautifully incorporated. We want a fairly even consistency, but we don't want to over mix this. So just until everything is all come together, and then we're ready to go ahead and fill our mini loaf pans, and we're going to do them about 2/3 full. I'm just going to smooth out the tops because I want the loaves to not be too high in the center. They will come up more in the center as it is. That's just from years and years of doing the mini loaf pans to learn that that actually helps with the result. And then I'm going to decorate my tops with a full loaf. I'm going to insert a little photo here of what it's supposed to look like when you have a full loaf. According to the recipe that I'm working from, we'd make strips down the sides. But what I am doing here is just putting 1 slice in each of the 4 corners. And then I'm going to take my turbinado sugar and give a healthy sprinkling on top of that. And then into the oven they go. And we are going to cook them for, because they're mini loaf pans, these took about 35 to 40 minutes. You want to cook them until a toothpick comes out clean when inserted in the center. And look how beautifully they puff up and come out of the oven. These make great gifts and they fill your kitchen with a wonderful aroma. Every year when I make these, I prefer to slice myself a nice 1-inch thick slice, warm it in my toaster oven, and then put a nice slab of cream cheese on top. That's my favorite way to eat any of these kinds of breads. I recommend you give it a try along with this method for making your banana bread. If you do that, would you please let me know and let me know how it turned out for you. I am so thankful that you watched this video today. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Please like this video if you did like it. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And on the main channel page, you can click the little bell, ding, ding, ding. It will let you know whenever there's a new video. We have cooking videos, and now in 2018, we've added art videos as well. So please join us for those. Check out some of those because that's creative too. Creative in the kitchen, creative in the studio. Come along for the journey. I love company. Thanks again and see you next time.